Okay, we're moving along in chapter 1. We're in the second lesson part, and we're in part C. And today what we're going to do, or getting ready for tomorrow, you're going to start dividing decimals by whole numbers. So working on today what you did in class is modeling what that looks like with base 10 blocks. The day before that, you worked with estimation to make sure that you're using that strategy to always check your work as you're going along. So now we're moving into the algorithm and paper pencil dividing decimals by whole numbers. In the interest of time, we are going to do this first activity together in class, so we're going to skip past that, and I'm just going to go straight through the algorithm and how to successfully divide with decimals. I feel pretty confident, especially with all of you finishing your assignment today so quickly, that you're pretty comfortable with those base 10 blocks. Know that if while we're going through this algorithm or tomorrow when you have some work to practice and some story problems and situations to do, that it is okay if you're drawing the picture of the base 10 blocks on the side. That is absolutely what I would like you to do, or even if you're using the base 10 blocks to help you divide. Okay, so let's look at this first example here. And we are trying to find 6 and 8/10. Really get in the habit, guys, of not saying 6.8. I'm going to start telling you to watch your language in class. If you're using 0.8, you need to know that place value. What place is the 8 in? It's in the 10th place because it takes, remember, 10 of those, or 10 longs to make that whole flat. So use that language. 6 and 8/10 divided by 2. So if you remember from that picture drawing, if you were to draw the picture, you would make 6 flats. And then you're going to have 8 longs. And you're dividing those up into 2 groups. So definitely could draw the picture. Say one flat here, another here. Where am I at? My goodness, I got ahead of myself. Sorry. All right, and another flat there. So we're able to equally share 6 flats in 2 groups. Each group has 3 flats. And then we're going to take our longs, one here. What happens when we draw the picture sometimes, and you already noticed that I did it, we get ahead of ourselves and then we have to go back and think about, oh, did we do that correctly? So I was able to split everything without breaking up or trading. And then I would look at one group and I would say that I have 3 flats and 3 represents 3 wholes. And then I have 4 longs, and 4 longs are 4/10 because it takes 10 of those to make a flat. So 3 and 4/10. Drawing the picture is just fine if you can figure it out. But as we get more and more difficult, that becomes more difficult. Here's what the algorithm looks like when you're dividing out. Putting 6 and 8/10. It's our dividend, so we put it inside. And then our divisor, we're dividing it up into 2 groups. We first take that 2. If we have 2 groups, we have 6 flats or 6 whole. Do we have enough to share? Well, yes, I can give every group 3. If I give every group 3, now I'm going to see how much I've used. 3 times 2. And I get 6, and now I'm going to subtract to say that, look, see it just like up here, I don't have any flats left. Then I'm going to bring down the next thing I need to divide up, which was the longs. So I have 8 longs. If I have 2 groups and 8 longs, how many can go in each group? 4. How many did I use? 4 times 2, I've used 8. Subtract, and I have 0 remainders. When you set this up, when you're dividing by a whole number, what happens with the decimal is kind of think like it just kind of levitates or floats up. Just floats up and sits right in between those 2 numbers. This is different than multiplication, where we didn't worry about the decimal until we're all done. When we're dividing by a whole number, we just take that decimal, we float it up and put it in that spot, in the place value spot. Let's do a couple more here. Erase that out for you. So let's go down here to some practice. Oh, before I go, remember, you can check that estimate and making sure that's compatible. You know, you're taking your 6 and 8/10. That's about 6. We could round it to 7, but I know that I can't divide 7 equally by 2. So I'm going to keep it 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. That's where it gets so confusing in division. The numbers have to be compatible, but you want them to be close enough that it's going to give you a reasonable idea of where your quotient should be. So 3, and then when I look at my division, 3 and 4/10, yeah, that's reasonable, that's good. I can move on. All right, so we have 7 and 5/10, and I'm going to divide 7 and 5/10 into 3 groups. Remember that decimal just kind of floats up, and I'm going to put it right there. I have 3 groups. I have 7 flats. Can I give everybody 1? Yes, because that's 3. Can I give everybody 2? Yes, because that's 6. Ooh, don't have any more to do, or any more flats to give more, so 2. So now I'm going to say how many flats did I use? 2 times 3, 6 flats. That leaves me with 1 flat left over. 1 flat left over. I can't do anything with it, so I'm going to break it up, and that should give me 10. Remember, 1 flat we can trade in for 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. There they are. 10 longs. 10/10 makes 1 whole. All right, so I have 10 longs, but wouldn't you know, look over here, I still have these 5 longs. So if I count them all up together, I have 15 longs. 3 groups, 15 longs. Can I give everybody 1? Yes. 2? Yes. 3? Oh yeah. 4, 5. I can give everybody 5. 5 times 3 is 15. I have 0 longs left. We're going to really kind of tackle that algorithm because I know some of you were trying to remember that from 4th grade and it was kind of tricky. So tomorrow when you're doing your practice work, remember I'm not here, so if it helps you to draw the picture, please draw the picture. But try and bridge that and do it the long division way if you can. Maybe you guys could really work together to help each other be successful with that. All right, so let's do another one. B here. 3 and 5/10, dividing that into 7 groups. All right, float that decimal up. If I have 3 flats and I have 7 groups, I know I certainly can't share those with everybody. So I can't share those. So how many flats did I give away? 0 times 7, nothing. So I'm still left with these 3 flats. So what I'm going to do with the 3 flats is I'm going to break them up, and each flat is 10/10. So now if I have 3 flats, I have 30/10. But I still have these 5/10. So I have 35/10 now. If I have 7 groups and 35/10, I know a multiplication or division fact you can think of. 35 divided by 7 is 5, or 7 times 5 is 35. So I'm going to give everybody 5/10. 5/10 times 7 would be 35. I've used all of those longs. I have a 0 remainder. Okay. Kind of using that idea of what's happening with those base 10 blocks as we divide out. Let's do one last one here. Right over here, C, 9 and 8/10, and we're dividing that into 2 groups. Going to float that decimal up. I'm going to look at the 9. That's 9 flats, 9 wholes. If I have 2 groups, 9 flats. I know with my math facts that I can't divide 9, but I can get certainly close, and that's by giving everybody 4, because 4 times 2 is 8. So I've given out 8 flats, or 8 whole. That means I have 1 flat left. 2 groups can't do anything with that 1 flat. I'm going to break it up and exchange it for 10/10, but I still have these 8/10 here. So now I have 18/10. 2 groups, 18/10 in front of me. I know that I can give everybody 9/10. 9 times 2, 18, 0 remaining. That's what you're going to be practicing tomorrow with dividing with a single digit. But just because I like to give you guys a challenge, not only are you going to be dividing by a single digit, we'll wait for it to load here on the computer, but you're also going to be attempting to divide by a double digit. And that's where it gets a little bit tricky when we're dividing by a double digit. And you'll remember that from 4th grade when we first started talking about it. Let's see, are we loading? It's all, in theory, the same thing that you've been doing with a single digit. You just have more groups to share it with. Okay, so let's look at dividing a decimal by a two-digit number. I know that when I was a kid that this part kind of made me just a little bit worried, but I just want you to know that you can handle it. It just takes a little bit longer, a little more estimation, and maybe some multiplication work on the side to kind of figure out what's the best. All right, so let's look at this first one. Find 7 and 7/10 divided by 14. They put an estimate there for you. 10 divided by 10 is 1, so it needs to be close to 1, or it's going to be about 1. So we did the same thing that we have done before, and maybe I'll make this bigger so that I can write it out. I'm going to put 7 and 7/10 as your dividend. You're dividing it amongst 14 different groups. Okay. The same thing happens as before. That decimal just floats up, and it goes where it's supposed to sit, right above that dividend. And we just start dividing. So if I have 14 groups and I have 7 flats, I know I don't have enough to share. 0 times 14 is 0. Still have 7 flats. Going to exchange those 7 flats now for tenths, 70 tenths, but I still have these 7, so now I have 77 tenths. Okay. And they have done it differently, I see, in their multiplication than I have done in mine. So this is how I do it. I'm confused by, actually, now that I look at their example, where they ended up with 70, but we'll just continue on here. So we have 77. What we need to figure out, if we have 77 and 14 groups, how many we can share out. And this is where it gets tricky because 14 isn't something that's in your vocabulary as far as a basic fact. So things that I've done in the past to help me, maybe think of, okay, well, 14 is about 10, and 77, that's about, I could maybe round that to 80. So 10 into 80, I could maybe say 8 different groups, but it's 4 more. So we can just start thinking about what number it could be. Or if I have 15, I know that 15 groups of 4 is 60. Okay, so maybe I could do 5 groups of 15. So I'm going to try 5 there. Then some kids, what they do on the side is then take 14 and times it by 5. 5 times 4 is 20. I have 2 extra 10s. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 is 70. And so what I've done is I've used 70. I'm going to subtract. I still have 7 remaining. Okay, so doing the multiplication on the side, or sometimes you can do it in your head, by saying 10 times 5 and 4 times 5. Well, I know 10 times 5 is 50, 4 times 5 is 20. Add those together. Okay, either way works too. I have 70 here. So what happens when you're dividing with a decimal is we can annex, is what they call it, a 0, and we can put a 0 in the hundredths place because we know that 7/10 and 70 hundredths are the same thing. So we just add a 0 if we have a remainder higher than 0. And we can bring that 0 down then. And what we've done is just taken those 7/10 that we have left over, and we've just exchanged them. And now we have 70 hundredths. So if I have 70 hundredths and I have 14 groups, I already know, actually, just from looking up here, that I can give each group 5 hundredths. So 5 times 14, I've used 70 hundredths. And now I have a remainder of 0, so I can stop dividing. So 55 hundredths is where I'm at. Let me check my time here to see where we're at. Ooh, bummer. All right. So we're right near the end of our time together, and this is going to be the one thing that I'm going to spend some extra time with you, is dividing by that double digit. So tomorrow, we'll spend a whole bunch of time practicing with it and giving you strategies to make you successful when you're dividing by a whole number. Please come with questions. Send me any questions that you have, and we'll touch base tomorrow morning. Have a good night. Thank you for watching the video.